How to see the good and the bad when talking to a difficult person. Hello and welcome to Communication Psychology. My name is Gerhard. I'm a psychologist from Hamburg, Germany, specialized in communication psychology in international, intercultural, and multilingual contexts. Do you know a difficult person in your family or at your office? Probably not just one. It takes some humility to acknowledge I myself may often be also a difficult person to others. It always triggers me when at seminars some participants show overconfidence in their communication skills. Like, I really don't know your theory, but I also don't really need it because I'm doing all this already instinctively. I'm already such a good communicator to my team, for example. Now, I always keep diplomatic, of course, but my instinctive reply would be, well, let's call your wife or husband or children and ask them, or your co-workers or team members. Probably we'll get a more nuanced picture. So being confident, of course, is important. If we have zero confidence in our communication skills, then, well, we won't pick up the phone in the first place. We may have some kind of social phobia and avoid any kind of social contact altogether. But overconfidence is also dangerous. If I think of myself as the great communication expert, well, I will tend to ignore important cues during a conversation. If I am so full of myself, then I'm probably not a very good listener. And it's an observation I often make among people with high self-esteem or self-confidence. They often tend to ignore the people they are talking to. So, of course, they feel confident speaking, but it's often not a real dialogue. It's only in one direction. Look how great I am. And people need to validate it. Yes, you are such a great dad, such a great mom, such a great team leader. Well, the first step in a difficult conversation with difficult people is to somehow understand that most of us, if we are not total psychopaths or have other kinds of derangements, we almost always have good intentions. So every person does something with good intentions. So the person, him or herself, believes to be virtuous. They have a virtue in mind. For example, a person who always shoots down your ideas. At a board meeting or in a private conversation, this won't work, or it's too expensive, or we have tried this already. So, people like that who always try to discourage your ideas. Now, it's easy to see the negativity in this. But if we ask them, they probably have something else in mind. They believe probably of themselves that they are somehow realistic. They want to protect us maybe from disappointments, from failure. So they better tell us in advance that we should better not try, to not get hurt. Especially parents may do this. So they have actually a virtue in their mind. But we see the degenerated version, the extreme version of that virtue. So every positive thing, every virtue taken to extremes becomes something negative. It's, of course, important to be prudent, but if you are completely negative about any initiative, then that is taken prudence to an extreme. On the other hand, maybe you are too confident. Maybe you are reckless in their perspective. You come up with all kinds of crazy ideas, but you're not organized enough to follow through, to think through them. And So, but you yourself had in mind like being entrepreneurial, creativity, openness for experience, and so on. So, a very simple first step. It sounds simple, but it's not so simple if somebody is really attacking you, raising his or her voice. That you try to identify what could be the positive virtue, the virtue this person actually is aiming at. For example, in this case with negativity, maybe prudence or some realism or healthy skepticism. Now, what you could do, and please try and tell me how it works for you. It needs some practice, of course. I also need to practice every day. Is to say, well, before, what would you do? Often we are attacking each other's extreme versions of our virtues. Like you are attacking the other person for being toxic or negative, pessimistic, and the other person is attacking you for being disorganized, chaotic, reckless, and not thoughtful. So you fight each other having the negative extremes in your mind. So the first thing you could start saying to the other person is, well, I appreciate that, or I see or I hear that you are being very prudent. I appreciate your prudence in this matter. Probably what I'm suggesting seems a bit reckless and unplanned or risky to you. I fully understand that. Now let's try to figure this out step by step. So what did I do? First, I acknowledged, validated their good intentions, their virtue that they probably have in mind. On the other hand, I also acknowledged that they may see me in some kind of extreme position. And I suggested to let's discuss it step by step to solve this step. Now, this is just one first step. In other videos we'll go further. But this first step may very often be the solution to many of our conflicts. Because for the other person, it may often come to a shock if you start appreciating, acknowledging, validating their good intentions. Typically, we don't do this. So especially if it's a person with whom you have already a history of conflicts. So this already will calm the other person a bit down because you show respect for their position. They come from a different perspective than you come and you acknowledge it. And also that you don't try defending your position. You admit that yes, to the other person, your position may look a bit extreme. So you show empathy, understanding for what they probably are thinking about you. And this is probably already going to disarm the other person to such an extent that a rational, more or less rational discussion among your two positions will be possible. So in further videos, we'll go a bit deeper, but doing this alone very often stop a potential conflict very easily. Because what we often just want to hear is that the other person acknowledges our good intentions. Most adults are adult enough to understand that we cannot always get our position through, but at least we want to be acknowledged, validated. What do you think? If you want to have me virtually in your team, in your company, organization, giving a free masterclass on communication psychology, 60 minutes, I have 4 slots a month. Just contact me via LinkedIn or email. I wish you much success and see you the next week. Bye-bye.